Marmalade here. This is Q&A number 6. Thanks for joining me. We have some really good questions here. We have 5 questions, and let's get started right away. So question number 1 is from Share Hikes, and they asked me, do you need advance permits for these 4 to 5 day hikes, or can you get walk-up permits? So I decided to answer this. I've been asked a few times now, especially since I just posted my 3-day trip up in the Sierras up by Mammoth Lakes where I had to get a permit. I've been asked about the permit, so I'll kind of explain it. I also called the ranger station to make sure. So I'm going to explain how the permit process works as far as I know it. But like, if you get ready to do, whether it's 2 days or the whole JMT, whatever, don't be shy. You can call them. They're super helpful. Different ranger stations cover different areas, so you have to kind of figure that out. But this is how it works, and I talked to, like I said, the ranger station where I picked up my permit on the phone to clarify. So how it works is a couple different ways. If you want to do, let's say, the whole JMT, or you want to do a week-long hike in the Sierras, and you need to plan ahead of time and take time off from work and plan and do all that stuff, especially if it's a group, you can, I guess how the calendar works, it's a 6-month rolling calendar. So let's just say, I don't know, you want to hike starting on July 4th. You would figure it out on a calendar exactly 6 months ahead, and that's when the dates start becoming open. Is 6-month rolling calendar. This is what I was told. The lady was fairly new, and she said she asked somebody there, and that's what they confirmed. So I would either look online on their site or call just to make sure. So if you want to get a permit for a certain amount of days, that's the way to at least know ahead of time if you can do it. For me, it's hard for me to plan that far in advance, and I like to, especially if I hike by myself, it's pretty easy to get a permit. I did have to figure out how the system works and how it works. So I'm going to explain how permits in general work, whether it's online or in person, and this will help out a lot. And I'm going to use this as an example. So for every single trailhead in the Sierras, they allow so many permits per day, and that means starting at this trailhead, and then wherever you end is where you end, but they only want to allow so many people on the trail from every trailhead every day. So I'm going to keep it simple for simple math. So I went to Mammoth Lakes and left Agnew Meadows, which is near there, and did Thousand Island Lake, Garnet Lake, Ediza Lake, Shadow Lake, and came back. It's a big loop. But I started at Agnew Meadows. So what they do is, for math reasons, let's just say they allow 10 permits a day from Agnew Meadows. How it works is, when they open up the 6 months in advance online, they give 60% of all permits for every trail to online applicants. So basically, for easy math, 6 out of those 10 permits from Agnew Meadows would be given online ahead of time. So why they do this is a couple of different reasons. There are a lot of no-shows and people who have things come up. Life happens, and they can't go. So hopefully they go back online and they give up their permits for somebody else. But how the walk-in works is they do some same day, like you can get your permit same day and get out there. I do it for a couple of reasons. I do it the day before I go. I drive all night, and I get there the day before and get my permit for the next day. It's also so that I know I have it, but also to kind of acclimate to the elevation so I don't get altitude sickness. So how it works is, on any given day you want to get your permit, you show up at the ranger station at 8 a.m. That's what I did. I got in line a little early, so I'd be the first one. And at 8 a.m. every day, they start a list. So in this case, this last trip I did, I was first on the list. There was actually nobody else in line. The time before I went there was 10 people in line, so you never know. But I got my name first on the list at 8. So what happens is between 8 and 11, and they ask you to come back at 11, because between 8 and 11, the people who booked their trips 6 months in advance, could be 3 months in advance, but did it online, have between 8 and 11 to pick up their permits for the following day. The reason why they do this, and at first it kind of frustrated me, like, well, why do I have to wait? Why can't I just get it now? But they've booked theirs way ahead of me, so they have first dibs at getting their permits. So remember, technically 6 of them were gone for that day, and the other 4 were for walk-ins, so I have a good shot at getting it anyway at that trailhead. But the reason why they do this is because some people just no-show, and it's unfortunate, but other people would love to have those spots, but they no-show. So they have between 8 and 11 to pick up their permits. If they don't, let's just say only 3 of the 6 get used, and the other 3 are no-shows. They put those 3 back in the hopper, and so there's already 4 left. One of the ones I can grab, but also they'll throw the other ones that were not used in there. And so tomorrow's there'll be 4 plus 3, so there'll be 7 permits available. So if there's people in line like me that want them, then I'm the next person in line to get it. So that's how you get it. So that's basically how it works, and I hope that helps. So my second question is from Ramona Gale, and she asked me, what kind of documentation does the PCTA require in order to issue a certificate of completion of the entire trail? This is an interesting subject because uh, many people hike the trail and complete the whole thing in 1 year, over 10 years, and they don't ever get a certificate of completion. You're not required. It's just something to show that you did it. And I know for me, I'm going to get it when I finish. But I also called the PCTA on this one. I talked to somebody named Cassidy. If you have questions, she's really good there. She deals with the permitting, certificates, things like that, and she just knows all the rules. I dealt with her this year when I had to stop at Kennedy Meadows after 700 miles and flipped and then became a southbound and all that. I had to call her and have my permit changed, and then she changed it in the system, and then I went to the portal and I pre-printed it, so she helped me out with that. But I asked her just to kind of confirm what I'm going to tell you. So basically a couple things. The certificate of completion is 1000% honor system. So I don't know why you would hike like a little chunk of the trail and then ask for a completion of certificate of completion. So it's an honor system, and that's just how it's always been. And there's a lot of debate on if you're a through hiker, only if you do it in a calendar 12 months years, which is what the technically is. That's what it's called, the through hike. But to get the certificate of completion, it doesn't matter if you do it over 1 year or 50 years. Once you get all the trail done, you can call or email them, however they do it, and have it sent to you. The second thing you can do is get like a medal or a medallion. They're not free though. And what she told me was that what they require, because they are very nice and they're expensive, and for shipping, is that they require at least a minimum of $40 donation to the PCTA. So what's great about it is you get your medal, but you're giving $40 to the PCTA. So to me, you become a member for a year, and I think it's worth it. You could write it off, I guess. So that's how you get the medallion medal. It'll be engraved with the year and I think your name or trail name, who knows. But those are really nice. So like I said, this obviously not required either, but if you want to add to it, you can get that. The next question is from Terry Savini, and she asked me, how did I prepare for my resupply? How many boxes did I mail, and to where? Were most of my boxes prepared at home, or did you send resupply boxes from the trail? So this is something that I labored over more than anything. I think it goes back to my corporate sales days and being super organized in the past. Even when I would go on weekend hikes, I wanted everything to be perfect, and I make massive lists of every single piece of gear so I don't forget anything. I want to enjoy my trip and not have to think about anything. So I was always overly organized. That's why I was kind of excited to do this through hike, because I wanted to. There's a lot of things you cannot control, like me having to flip and me getting hurt and all that stuff. And I just wanted to learn to let it happen and know that the trail provides, it'll happen, and sure enough, it did. So the resupply though, before I went, was something that I struggle with. And so there's a bunch of different ways to do resupply. I'll probably talk more about this than anything else in this video today. So there's a bunch of different ways. You can mail every single box, have a loved one mail a box to you at every single town that you need a resupply. You can buy as you go. You can do what I did, which is I did research, and I'll tell you how I did it, but research and find out that I had about, and I will put the number down below, but I want to say I had, off the top of my head, 12, 13, 14 resupply places that I felt were the places that either had no store but had a post office so I could send a box, or it was like a resort or somewhere where the food was astronomical, so it made sense to send a box. So I found that there was like 12, 13, 14 spots I did that. So it's basically buy as I go, and then have my friend Robert, who offered to do this for me and store my food in my boxes and everything and send them to me. So that's the third way. And the fourth way is really the hybrid method, which is what I was prepared to do before Robert stepped up and said he would do it, because I'm single and I'm by myself, and I thought, well, I'm gonna have to do this on my own. I watched a series of somebody doing a couple, a husband and wife from the UK last year, that made it all the way. And I was going to say, this will really help you if you're from another country, especially, and you don't know anybody here. You can resupply yourself, and it's really what they call the hybrid method. And that's basically, obviously buying food in the towns that have stores, and it's affordable, things like that. But how you can do this is, I would suggest maybe if you're in a town today resupplying, 2 resupply towns down the trail, which could be 100 to 200, 150 miles down the road, um, does not have, it's one of those, you still have to do your research. And let's say in this case, it's one of my 11, 12, 13, 14 places I'm going to resupply. But let's say you don't have anybody to send you boxes, and that's a town that you need to have a box. When you're in town now, and that place where you need to send a box to is like 2 stops from now, you can buy a second set of food. You figure out how many days of food you need in that box to get you to the next town that has food. And let's just say, for instance, that you need 5 days of food. Well, when you're in town buying your food for this section, you can buy that 5 days of food that you need 2 stops from now and just mail it to yourself. So you don't really need anybody to help you. One of the benefits I'll say to that I don't wish I did it, because Robert helped me and made it a lot easier on me. But I will say that I bought my food ahead of time, and I was kind of sick of most of the stuff that was in my boxes, and thanks goodness I didn't get them that often. But yeah, your taste changed, and like I got sick of Cliff Bars. I can't even smell a Cliff Bar. I mean, if I'm dying, I'll eat it, and that's it. So things like that, you'll get sick of that. So what I did was, when I laid out, let's regress a little bit. So I'm gonna list some people that I looked at their videos, and I started compiling my own list. And what I did was basically, looked at Darwin and Dixie and a guy named Backcountry Banter, and a guy named Cale Scown, S-C-O-W-N. He has an actual list that's in a video, and he just videos down his list, and you can pause it and write down and just copy it. So that's what I did. But I found, when I looked at 4 or 5 forms of media to find out where people were sending resupply. I also bought Yogi's Guide, the book Yogi Guide. It's a little expensive, but it's invaluable. So with all these, I started seeing trends. Like, there were certain places everybody sent boxes to. So I'm just going off the top of my head, but I probably had 6 or 7 places that almost everybody sent to. So I just said, there must be a reason. So those 6 or 7 were on my list. Then I started seeing some trends, and excuse me, and I picked about 6 or 7 more, and those to me made sense. Sometimes the town's really far away, but the post office is close, things like that. So so what I did was, once I figured out that I needed 13, 14, 15 boxes, and I apologize, I don't remember, but I figured out, okay, I need 4 days of food in this box. Once I figured out how many miles it was to the next town for food, and how many days of food need to be in that box, I started adding them up. Okay, 4 days of food in this box, 6 over there, 2.5, 4.5, 5. And what I did was, after I totaled all the days food I needed in all my boxes, and I want to say it came to something like 63.5 days of food. So then basically what I did was, just went to the store, and I started buying. Different stores had sales and deals on things. I try not to get too caught up on how many breakfasts, how many dinners, how many lunches. I mean, it's important, but if you need 4.5 days food, probably the half day's just going to be breakfast. You're not going to need a dinner, because you're going to be in town on the last day. So I kind of figured out like that, but I didn't get too caught up on that. If I ended up having to eat dinner for breakfast or breakfast for dinner, just because that's what I had left, I was okay with that. So I went and bought stuff. I went to Walmart and a bunch of other places, and just bought tons of food. And so basically what I did for Robert was, I went and got a lot of the flat rate boxes from the United Postal Service, and I marked on the sides everything you're supposed to with my last name on the sides. I put some stickers, American flags, so that they would stand out, so it would help me find my box and the people searching for my box. I wrote PC Tacker. If you look in the Yogi's Guide, it tells you what to write on the side of the boxes. I think in some of these videos they'll tell you too. I think Dixie's does. So I did all that. I got all the boxes prepped for him. I wrote all the shipping labels, and then I created a master list, and I'm going to try to attach it here if I can. But I made a master list for Robert, for myself. I kept it in my phone on my Dropbox, so that, because what happens is, you're out there in the middle of nowhere, and you're like, wow, is the next town, am I getting a box, or am I supposed to buy it? So I would look on there and say, oh yeah, the next town, I'll be having a box sent to me. Also, weeks and weeks before I needed a box, I would look at my list and tell Robert to send it if he didn't already know it. So it helped me know like where I'm getting resupply and where I need to buy. So I got all the labels ready, everything. So literally all I had to do is, and I even had the food in the boxes, but I left them open in case you wanted to throw in a piece of gear or a shirt or take food out, or if I got sick of something, he could take that out and put this in. So it just was open. All I had to do is tape it up, send it to me. So I think it's a very personal thing, and just do what works for you. If I did it again, I was by myself, I would definitely do the hybrid, but I was very thankful to have Robert help me out. All right, so question number 5 is from Webfoot5, and they asked me, what is the process for obtaining permits for the trail? How do you know if you need a permit if you're just section hiking? So again, this is a question you can call the PCTA if you're in the States and ask them. But the simplistic answer to this is that generally on the trail, like I live in San Diego, so the first 700 miles of the trail are the desert portion. The premise behind the permits is if you're 500 miles consecutive or less, you don't need a permit. So if I go in the desert and I hike 3 days, I hike 499 miles, I do not need a permit consecutive. That doesn't mean get off and then a week later go back. Same in Oregon and Washington, things like that. Where you need the permit is when it's one continuous stretch is longer than 500 miles, no matter where you are, but also if you're going through like the Sierras and some of the state and national parks, you need permits, whether you get through your through hiking permit that we're talking about, or you go to the actual ranger stations like I talked about earlier and pick up one. You can get them ahead of time. Let's just say you're going to do a 500-mile section and only 2 days is in through a national park or something. You can somehow maybe do it online, but get your permit, and then when you do your long section, you'll have your permit for that. But that's probably the easiest way to explain that. All right, so my 5th and final question is from Felipe Ricketts. He asked me, could you describe your best day hiking? I love to hear people describe what brings them the most joy. So that's really interesting, Felipe. It's a interesting question. I don't know that I think about the trail like that. I'm so blessed and happy when I'm on the trail, if it's a day hike or weekend or through hiking. I just love it. I mean, every day is not perfect. You have bad weather, or maybe you're tired or whatever, but I love it so much. It's hard. I never really looked at it like, what's my very best day? I mean, if I had to, when I was newer at it, as I got in a little better shape and I would like get over some of these big mountains and things that I had never really tried or thought I could do, that was pretty cool. But I don't know about my best day. I would say my best day so far, and this may have to change once if I get up on top of Whitney, but my best day was probably my last day of the desert. I was hiking with Adam and Grant, and we've been hiking for 6 weeks, and we camped 8 miles from Kennedy Meadows, and it was drizzling and raining, and it was just so beautiful going by the Kern River. It's just stunning, and you could start to see some of the big rock formations that were part of the Sierras, because once you get to Kennedy Meadows, it's the end of the desert and it's the start of going into the Sierras. And then it got sunny and we saw a huge rainbow, and it's just exciting because I cut my teeth on the PCT. I'm very rare. I've said this before because I happen to live near it. So I was a beginner hiking on the PCT. So I feel like that's why I was better prepared for the PCT, because I knew what to expect. A lot of people come from other countries or live in the Midwest where it's flat, and they just don't know what to expect till they get on it. So I knew what to expect, at least through the desert portion. And but you really don't know. I think the longest trip I ever done was 4 or 5 days, and so I didn't know how I would do. And so I feel like for my age, and I'm 57 now, I was 56 when I started, that I feel like I crushed it for my age. I kept up for the most part with the 220-year-olds. So I felt good about it. And it's funny because you really don't know. It doesn't matter how much you want to do a through hike. You don't know if you've never done one. You don't know how you're going to perform and how you're going to feel and what it's going to be like. And you don't even know if you're going to be good at it or if you're going to quit. All these people that are well known, that are more legendary hikers, were beginners and had to start somewhere, and they had no idea if they could do it. And so so I think my best day was walking into Kennedy Meadows, and I actually finished the desert, 702 miles in about roughly 6 weeks, and that's including like 8 days off. And I was hurt in there and had a 3-day rest in Big Bear for my ankle. But yeah, I mean, I was like, man, I made it through, and it gave me the confidence that I could do any long stretch, that I could do it. The desert's not easy. It's big, high mountains. It's bigger mountains and higher elevation when you're on top of them than in Washington, where I was before I got hurt. So it was a good accomplishment. and it set me up to know that I can do any hike I want. You know, it's physical, but it's mostly mental. But that's the long answer to your question. All right, guys, so that's it. I thought that went well. I hope that was informative. Really like those questions, and as I've always asked, please send me a bunch of questions. Anything you were, and there are no dumb questions, okay? I have a lot of questions. I write them all down, so I'm trying to get to them, but I mean, I get a lot of questions, and I can only answer 5 or 6 each week. So just be patient if you have one. There's some good questions there. Some of them, they're asking about gear, and I need to actually physically get the gear. So just be patient. I'll get to some of your questions that you've asked a while ago. I have them all written down, so don't worry about it. So ask me those questions. These Q&As are every Tuesday, so always kind of tune in on Tuesdays. I've got another 1 or 2 videos coming out soon. One was at a kind of a gear review slash shakedown we did in a park. So I want to show you that. It's a kind of specialized on tents. And I'm going to do some gear reviews too. I have a couple pieces of gear, one new one that I just got I want to show you. And lastly, please go to my Patreon page. It's patreon.com, and you can find me under Mike Marmalade Lawrence. And just check it out. You know, there's no obligation. I would love for you to become a patron. You can donate as little as $1 a month if you want. You can donate up to, you know, 50,000 a month. That's great too. But anyway, just check it out, and you'll get. I've put my new. I've created. I'm gonna eventually show you guys, but because I have a couple patrons already, they get to see things first. I actually have a brand new Marmalade logo designed, and I showed it to them first. I'll break it out to you guys. But if you're you're one of my patrons, you get to see things first. You'll see photography that I haven't posted anywhere, and hopefully some gear reviews and things like that will get there first before they come here. So enough of that. Check it out, and thanks again. Until next time, see you down the trail.